Salutations, kindred souls. Welcome to another episode of Lux Martin Enlightenment. I'm Lux, and this channel is about all things enlightenment. Not the kind that transcends life, but the kind you find right smack in the middle of it. This is going to be kind of a short episode. It was just a very poignant, powerful realization that came to me today, and I feel really passionate about talking about it because I hope that it provides an aha moment for someone else on the twin flame journey. So the topic today I want to talk about is twin flame marriage. There is a lot of content out there on it, and I think that in sharing my experience and how my journey is going, someone might get a little bit of peace of mind or revelation as to what they might need to do to continue on in their journey. So this is about twin flame marriage and that there are different levels of it, and I hope and pray for you that you get it all, that you get both. Okay, just like I hope I get both. So I will give you just a teeny bit of backstory to help clarify this revelation that I got, because basically the revelation is that it is both, but one definitely comes before the other, and in my case it did not, and so it's working out kind of messy. Yeah, so let's zoom back just a little bit for anybody that doesn't know, because maybe you're new to this thing called twin flames. A twin flame is a very particular type of soul connection. People call it a soulmate, but it is a particular type, and I don't resonate with the idea that it's the highest form of connection or that it's anything more special than a soulmate or anything other than like that. I resonate with the belief system that a twin flame is a type of soul connection that came here on earth with a particular mission, the particular goal. And the goal is reunification, but through the journey of discovering both oneself and what self-unity is and unconditional love. So I believe that the point of a twin flame connection is to use your journeys of not only finding each other, but finding yourself and the waves you create in the collective and the ripples of change you make in the world by changing and finding who you are. And it's a very important role that I believe God put us here on earth to do in this day and age. I won't go into it any further than that because that would require a lot more elaboration into the sources and why I believe that, so that I can back up what I'm saying and it's not all just a bunch of hooey. So we'll kind of put a pin in that. But I believe that twin flames of these generations, knowing that there are a few different types out there, go find that content. It's out there. Be careful what you sift through. But I believe that twin flames of these times are meant to be pushing for union. We're pushing. There's this urgency. That's what we want. We want this spiritual and physical union. Okay, there are all of the sources I listen to are the type of unions that want to be with their person on a day-to-day basis. And there's nothing wrong with that if you don't, or if you are the kind of person that I know them, they're out there, will always be that connection, but I've got my thing going on over here, or I don't want to be with them, or I've got this other lovely soulmate to be with. Beautiful, nothing wrong with that. There's those out there too. I am one of those that have this ever so desperate freaking desire to have this physical unity. Okay. And in my world, it looks like marriage. It looks like a traditional marriage. Both myself and my twin were brought up from a Christian background. And so there is a lot in the Bible about what marriage is spiritually, what it looks like in a human representation. And to me, that's all a lovely, beautiful picture. It's all a lovely reflection and some metaphors as to what marriage is. My twin and I got married pretty quickly after we met. I would say maybe 8 months after we met, we got married. And that was really short-lived because we were smashing that bubble of discovering you. Wow, there's a lot going on. There's a lot I love about you and a lot I hate about you at the same time. We were smashing that together with union because of what we were feeling. And it was just too tumultuous to withstand. And in my case, in my experience, my twin came from a place where other marriages had ensued, and it was quite easy for him to drop that concept because I looked just like every other partner he had, in which I did XYZ triggers, these wounds. I was, inflicting the same pains that he'd experienced before in life. And so I got put in that box of, yep, let's chalk this one up to another, you're crazy bit of nonsense and we're not going to work this out. So I had physical marriage and separation and divorce very quickly on. And I implore those of you who are on this journey, please do not rush that, because it is heartbreaking. I would say the most devastating thing, which unfortunately I do believe that my soul came down here to do it that way, just to stick it to my human self, like, see how you can swallow that one in this lifetime. I think we did it that way first because in the marriage and divorce process, he absolutely smashed my vision, my understanding, my definition of what marriage is. He absolutely obliterated it, because coming from a family lineage with a lot of divorce and separation and bitterness in love and relationship in general, I wanted to be the one that didn't get divorced. I wanted to be the one that found the right one and stuck it out, and it was just this beautiful ongoing journey. So not. He absolutely, and by no means am I blaming him. So if you ever watch this video someday, dear, I'm not saying this to shake my finger at you, nor any other twin that decides to call it quits, because the most valuable lesson I learned, and it was absolutely devastating, it was crushing my soul for the longest time, of you crushed my concept of what marriage is, both from a Christian background, from a spiritual background, and from a literal, physical, human, this is what marriage is on a day-to-day life background. You absolutely flat-planed all of it for me, because in the way he and I had that falling out, that coming together, an explosion and falling out, it made me ask the question on every instance possible of, what is marriage? What is the point? What is the benefit? Why would somebody want to do this with me? And how do you make it mean something that's valuable and lasting? So on all three fronts, essentially, I was just crushed, because everything that I thought was the glue was no longer holding anything together. And so I feel like, as excruciating as that was, I can't even describe to you the pain that I ached with for such a long time in this devastation of marrying and divorcing him. I don't know if I'll ever really be able to go into detail, but I had to stop and ask and reevaluate every understanding I had of what marriage was. So let's kind of break this into a couple bitty pieces of physical 3D human marriage, whether you come from a Christian background or other spiritual background or no religious background at all. Human marriage today is a legal binding contract. That's what it is. And that's exactly what he saw it as. And to him, that legally binding contract was a heavy one, it was a risky one, and a pricey one. It was not attractive to him at all, because having a wife and kids to be responsible for, and who could also theoretically take everything, or more than her half on the way out, was not attractive to him at all. And I can understand how too many people in the world, men or women out there, the literal human marriage that we do today, at least in the United States, isn't all that attractive. It is, well, there's a lot of pros and cons to weigh out. There are some reasons why it is beneficial to unify your lives legally, and there are a lot of reasons why it's not. And to him, that was where his mind primarily played in, is, what is this doing for me on a day-to-day basis? What is the advantages and disadvantages of me living my life right now for being legally binded to you? And so I had to face that reality that, yeah, that is the way some men, in my case, think. I'm a woman, he's a man. That's the way some men think about marriage, is like, this is a risk, not a blessing. And I had to accept that. And there was a lot of this anger I had to work through about, why don't you see it that way? And why don't you enjoy this about this? And why don't you see the benefits over this? But I went through a chapter of that where I really started to sit back and go, Well, yeah, that has happened to a lot of people. And some of that even happened in our marriage and divorce. And it wasn't fun and it sucked. And it is financially devastating and emotionally devastating and real estate wise, like everything. Your whole life changes from marriage and divorce. It does on a literal everyday life perspective, regardless of your spirituality, religion, or none thereof. And then there was the whole component, at least for me, in my case, I'm not pushing this on anybody, but in my case of coming from a Christian background of believing that the God and the Bible taught me a lot about what marriage is, what unity is, what the bridegroom is, what the spiritual connection and unification it is. And all of that was very lovely and beautiful to me. And I found it so heartwarming to believe in those things and to see it like that. And I thought that's what healthy love was, or a healthy marriage was, is trying to embody the picture of like God and Jesus and the bride and the groom and the unification and coming, leaving your past, leaving your mother and father, all of the things, leaving those metaphorical things behind to be one, to literally be so conjoined that you are one spiritually, physically, all the ways. I thought that was beautiful. And I still do. Don't get me wrong. I still do. But even him coming from that background and taking it very seriously, surprisingly seriously, if you knew anything about him. But the fact that that was so easy for him to walk away from and just go, nope, not it. I don't care about the expectations I believe God is holding to me to in the topic of marriage. I am still ready to walk away. That was mind blowing to me. Because to me it was like staining and tainting this beautiful, holy, spiritual thing that was coming from that Christian perspective. Again, definitely not everybody's story, but in our case, both of us having that upbringing and that understanding of, well, but God told us to do it this way. Very devastating, and just I totally had to walk away from it for a minute and go, I don't really even understand the consequences or the fallout of what is happening spiritually, emotionally between us and between me and God, and all the ways that that connection goes because of these decisions. And so I really had to step back for a minute and just let myself be open to the fact that we made mistakes, we made choices that were very sad, very disheartening, and very dishonoring to the Christian concept of marriage. And it was painful. It was painful. It was embarrassing. It was shameful. So I say all of this to say that if you come from a spiritual or a religious background, there will be wounds to work through, shame and pain and emotions to work through around the concept of marriage and or divorce based on these rule sets, these beliefs that you've chosen to embody because of your faith, because of your belief system. So that was its own layer of the challenge for me. And now I'm finally in this place where I've done a lot more exploring about what spiritual marriage is. And today I was listening to something that was quite enjoyable for me. It gave me this aha peace moment of, as a twin, we already said I do spiritually. We already are in union or marriage before we even came down here. And she said, the reason that walking away or saying goodbye feels so agonizing to you, especially to you as the feminine, is because that's not what you agreed to. You already agreed to forever, to union, to yes. You already agreed to this contract with somebody that I will hold remembrance for us. I will discover and remember and hold the frequency of unity for us. I came down here to do this. And so the reason I particularly remember times in my life where we had to say goodbye, walk away, isn't going to work, I'm not coming back. And I really feel like that's the reason why we went through so many cycles, is because that was just so unacceptable to me. It was just straight up unacceptable from the soul inside out to walk away, to be done, because my soul has already agreed to union prior to. And I still want to hold that. I still uphold that soul spiritual contract of I already agreed to union, and it is my job, it is my role to come down here and embody what union is, regardless of whether you remember it or not. So, spiritual union became a little bit more of a fascination to me because this tension, this discrepancy I felt between the concept of marriage and walking away was driving me crazy. And so I realized there's got to be more to this. There's got to be a level of the concept of marriage that you are still searching for, or you are still desiring to clarify. And that was it. That was the piece I needed to clarify, is that regardless of what the physical relationship looks like right now, and regardless of making choices that result in walking away, goodbye, separation, space, I know that there's a deeper layer of conviction in me that has agreed to uphold union, embody union. And so that is my new engagement phase now, you could say. My engagement phase to me is to remember what truly self-love and completion and wholeness and unity feels like, and start practicing those feelings, and thus practicing those energies on a day-to-day basis, and holding it and holding it and holding it, and being happy here and being complete in this self-unification phase, this self-marriage phase of I've married all of the pieces of me. I've remembered I am one. I am whole. I'm not a half. I am a whole. I'm a whole being, and all of it is here. All of it is here and complete, and she's happy and she's good and well. And she gives from that very full cup. So the self-marriage, the self-unification phase is where I tend to be at. And I'm hoping that by sharing this story with you of these layers of physical, human, USA legal marriage, your marriage based on your faith, your religion, your upbringing and beliefs, and your spiritual marriage all the way, way, way deeper to the core before your human body even came into form. I hope that identifying and seeing where you have discrepancy in each of these three areas will help you along your journey of twin flame marriage. Because I hope that someday in the marriage of me and the embodying of this energy, he won't be able to help but come to that realization as well. That is what I agreed to in this lifetime, is to come down here, remember it, hold it, emit it, be the lighthouse of it. Be the lighthouse of what marriage and unity is. And in being that lighthouse, he should find his way. He doesn't have to. He gets to choose. That's the sad, risky part about the human journey, is that free will exists, and he gets to choose to never answer that call. That sucks. He gets to choose to never step into union. Do I believe we'll end up that way? No, I don't. I had phases where I did, but I really have a deep conviction and a reassurance in myself now. Like when the question pops up, well, do you believe you'll end up together? My internal, inside me response is, of course you do. Of course you know you will. Because you're on your way. You're finding it. You're figuring it out. And you're well on your way to holding the frequency of unity. And if that's the case, I'm running the race. I'm winning my own race, my own half of the race. So how can it not go well? How can something beautiful not come out of this? I choose to believe that it will. So that was my version of twin flame marriage in a 20-minute nutshell. I hope that in dissecting these pieces and getting a little vulnerable with you about my story of my physical marriage and the divorce, and in the discovery of all of that and the way that played out, it led to me realizing that there is such deeper meanings of the word marriage. And I hope that you will crave and find those concepts for yourself and come to an understanding of whatever you want marriage to be. I hope that you'll dig deep enough to be satisfied with the level you wish to achieve. And I encourage you to find it from the inside out first before you do it from the outside in, because that can get really messy, as many of you may probably already know. But I hope that isn't your story, and I hope that your story ends just as beautifully as I anticipate mine to. Thank you again for joining me on another episode of Lux Martin Enlightenment. Keep seeking, keep softening, keep showing up. The light you're looking for is the light you already are. Take care.